what's up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel, and tonight is going to be movie content. For today's video, we are going to go over all the movies that I watched in the month of November. There's a lot to talk about. I didn't count, so we're just going to jump right in. I do want to warn y'all ahead of time. I watched so many movies in November, but it was still a pretty meh month because the majority of these movies are going to be 3-star watches, with the exception of like 2 or 3. So the first movie I watched in November was actually a surprise film. AMC stub members, and I think just AMC people, enjoyers, what have you in general, were invited to a secret screening where they were playing a movie. They gave you the rating of the movie and the duration, but you didn't know what movie it was until you sat down and the movie started. And that movie ended up being Taika Waititi's new movie, Next Goal Wins. This is based on the true story of the American Samoa soccer team, which at one point was considered the worst soccer team in the world, and a famous soccer player who's not living the best life right now goes and coaches them in the hopes that they're no longer the worst. This was cute. It had a lot of cornball on the nose humor, but it's which is what Taika Waititi is known for, so I wasn't really shocked by that. And it got a lot of laughs out of me. It could be pretty funny, and it was just a really good feel-good movie, which is really all I have to say about it. Sports movies like this aren't really my go-to. In fact, I would not have seen this movie if it wasn't for the secret screening event, but I did enjoy it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I went back to the theater to see Priscilla. This is the true story of Priscilla Presley, who married Elvis. And this movie takes place from the moment she met him until she divorced him. This was just a very interesting movie to me, so to just be transparent, I don't consider myself an Elvis fan. There's songs by him that I enjoy, but like if he were alive today and had a concert, I would not be going. So I was hesitant going into this, despite the fact that it's not about him, but I did want to learn more about Priscilla's life, just because I know their relationship is very controversial, just because there's that huge age gap. She was like 13, 14 when they met, when he was already in his 20s, which, and it's not like Sofia Coppola pulled a lot of the stuff out of her ass. She got it straight from a book that Priscilla herself had written. So I decided to see it, and wow. You know, I've heard rumors through the grapevine that Elvis was a very controlling person, and this movie did a great job of portraying that. He is not portrayed in a good light in the slightest. There's moments where he's portrayed in a charming light, which I would argue is different than an actual good light, but there's just something so weird hearing a 24-year-old man saying in regards to his girlfriend, oh yeah, I'll find a good Catholic high school for her. And he would throw chairs at her, he would tell her what to wear, how to do her hair. And he did this in real life, and they did a good job portraying that in this film. And I will say, I always figured he was heavily involved in Priscilla's life, considering how controlling he is. I just didn't realize how involved he actually was until he was showing up in almost every scene in a movie that's not about him, which I think is very telling to their relationship. Also, knowing that he's not portrayed in a good light in this movie, I think it's telling that Priscilla approves the movie, which I find interesting in and of itself, because sometimes when Priscilla talks about him today and about, you know, their lives together, she does seem happy to reminisce about it, and she does have good things to say. But here's this movie that portrays her as the victim she was, and all this as this evil man, and she's okay with it. So it's just interesting to me, like hearing what she says versus what the movie portrays, if that makes sense. I am also of the not so unpopular opinion that Jacob Elordi upstaged Austin Butler. Jacob Elordi got that voice down pat, and some of the mannerisms too. And I like the portrayal of Priscilla as well, because the woman who played Priscilla did such a good job at doing all ages that I still can't tell you how old that actress is in real life. And the hair and makeup team obviously has a hand in that, because they did a good job aging her and de-aging her, you know, without heavy prosthetics. It's all just basic makeup and wigs and costumes. I will say though, this is one of my 3 out of 5 star films. It did get kind of boring. The runtime of the film is about like an hour, 40 minutes, give or take a few minutes, but it felt so much longer, and I was glad when it was over. I do think having I Will Always Love You by Dolly Parton play at the end was kind of funny, because I did read somewhere that Elvis himself was obsessed with that song. So I don't know if that was purposeful on Sofia Coppola's part, or it's just because the song fits the theme, happens to fit the theme. But I did laugh. And yeah, that's all I have to say about this film. So director Wes Anderson made 4 short films that are all based on short stories by Roald Dahl, and they're Netflix original films. And I did watch them all in November, the first one being The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. This is about Henry Sugar, who discovers that a man can, he can see things without actually looking, so he learns to talent for his own financial gain. And the whole concept of all 4 movies, just so I'm not repeating myself for the other 3, is that they're supposed to be plays within a movie. I mean, set designs literally move on their own, or you'll see like a stagehand come on stage and pick something up from the actor. And I really like that concept. However, I still didn't think these films were the greatest. And just to stay on topic for Henry Sugar specifically, I think my problem with this film is that I wanted it to be acted out more. Like Dev Patel, Benedict Cumberbatch, Ben Kingsley, everyone in this film were just saying what the characters were doing, but they weren't actually doing it. They were just looking at the camera and talking really fast. Because I wasn't getting what I wanted, I was getting kind of bored with this. Having said that though, the narration skills in this film are just on point. Every actor in this movie is actually a pretty great storyteller when it comes to telling you what's happening. And the set designs themselves were really cool. I did really like seeing the set designs move and the stagehands coming up and like waving to the camera, just making it obvious that their presence is known. So because of those aspects, I did still give this movie 3 out of 5 stars. Then I started my Christmas watches, the first movie being The Lion in Winter. This is about King Henry II and his estranged wife fighting over an heir during Christmas in like the year 1100. So this film is a victim of just not being my type of film. I'm trying to watch 25 new to me Christmas movies this Christmas season, and like there's not really a lot out there I haven't seen, so I added this just to say I watched it. And it's the only reason I watched it. Otherwise, I probably would have never seen this in my life. So per my personal taste, it's just okay. I don't have a lot of critiques for it simply because it's not you, it's me situation. However, I will say that clapbacks in this movie are on point. Some of them literally made me laugh out loud. They were just at each other's throat, and the deliveries were great too. A young Anthony Hopkins is in this, and I don't think I've ever seen that man young. And a young Timothy Dalton's in this too, and he is really pretty. Some of y'all know him from the James Bond movies. I know that man from Penny Dreadful. But this is one of the many 3 out of 5 star movies of November. The next movie is also part of my Christmas adventure, and that is Meet Me in St. Louis. This movie takes place in the early 1900s, and it's about a family living in St. Louis. They love the city with all their hearts, but they find out that their father has a job offer in New York. They don't really want to go. They spend the movie trying to come to terms with that. This is more of a seasonal movie, so the Christmas aspect of this film is only like a quarter of the movie, so that's why people associate it with Christmas. Personally, I think it should be a Halloween movie because the costumes in this were so scary. But I thought this movie was cute and had a lot of cute songs. Again, I think this movie is a victim of not being my personal taste. But Judy Garland's rendition of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas has always been my favorite. There's something so bittersweet about it. It makes me, like, it gives me a sense of hope, but it also gives me a sense of sadness. And finally seeing it in context, and its original context, makes the song even better. I feel like we need to bring back the days where actors were staring like wistfully up in the sky while they sang something super depressing. There's just something about that vibe. And as the music fades away and they continue staring up and making whatever face they're making, because it's so unnatural. Like nobody does that in obviously no one's singing in real life, but I mean like the wistfully looking away. Nobody really does that in real life, but it's a vibe and I love it. I also just thought this movie was kind of funny watching it at this point in my life because there's a bunch of Midwesterners who might have to move to the East Coast and they don't want to. And I am a Midwesterner who moved to the East Coast. It's funny that I think it's funny they wanted to stay in the Midwest, in St. Louis, no less. And like meanwhile, I couldn't wait to fucking leave. So good on them. This is not one of my 3 out of 5 star movies. This is my 3.5 out of 5 star movie. Then in a very, very crowded theater, I watched The Hunger Games: The Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes. This is a prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy if you read the books, or what series if it's movies since there's 4. And it's the story of President Snow and how he was a mentor in the 10th Hunger Games. I have so much to say about this movie that contains spoilers, so I'm going to try my best with this review, but let me tell you, I have been a truther of this story since the very, very beginning. I remember when the book was announced and people were fucking pissed when they found out it was a villain origin story. They're like, we don't need this, and then they were pulling shit out of their ass about how it's going to teach people how to be bad, people are going to get the wrong idea, as if that's Suzanne Collins' fault. And then I just remember some of the reviews I would read about this book, just watching people completely miss the point, and they were upset. They're like, why do you want me to sympathize with a villain? And it's like, no, she doesn't want you to do that, or shit like, I don't like the book, I couldn't sympathize with him, when like, that's the whole point. The whole point of the book is that he is a sociopath. He's never going to get better. That's why he became what he is in the Hunger Games trilogy. And people are like, who is this for? And it's for me, bitch, because I love villain origin stories. I don't know, y'all, book Twitter, which I need to get off of, but book Twitter acted like it was the end of the fucking world when that book was announced. And it's mind-boggling to me, the mindset people have about villain origin stories. I don't like the mindset that some people have that the protagonist always needs to be a morally good person. Because even with this movie, there's some people on Rotten Tomatoes who don't like the movie simply because it's in a morally bad person's point of view. In my eyes, not everything needs to be a hero's journey. Some stories are very much meant to be a cautionary tale, which is what this is supposed to be. And cautionary tales are more effective when the main character is not a good person. But going back to being a truther from the beginning, it's just funny because the trailer for this movie came out, then the movie came out, and suddenly all these people on book Twitter who were complaining are now big fans of this movie. And it's like, how dare you doubt Suzanne Collins? You all acted like she had no idea what she was doing, and here she is, up on top with a movie that did great at the box office. So let's talk about my actual thoughts on the movie. First of all, Rachel Zegler. She plays Lucy Gray, the main character. Rachel Zegler is going to be a movie star. The first thing I've ever seen her in was Steven Spielberg's remake of West Side Story. She was singing in this soprano voice, and I thought she did a wonderful job with that movie. And in watching her in this was amazing because now she's faking like what we would think of as a southern accent, and she's not really using her soprano singing voice. She's using like a country style voice, and she did a great job at it. So I have to commend her versatility. And even outside of singing, she just did a wonderful job with the role itself. Snow in this movie is a bit meaner than I was expecting him to be, because I feel like in the book he is a bit more suave. But also, having said that, in the book we are getting his inner monologue, whereas in the movie you're not. So I totally understand the choice of making him meaner, and I actually do like that. Because seeing how many people miss the point of the book, I feel like by making him meaner in the movie, it made Suzanne Collins' intentions more obvious. And I'm trying to think of this as a movie on its own and then as an adaptation, but it's just so hard because as an adaptation, that's what's taking over the majority of my thoughts. But I actually do think, all things considered, this is actually a pretty good adaptation because the book itself is a chunker and it's told in like 3 parts. And that's hard to fit in the movie that's like 2.5 hours long. They did what they could, and like some of the changes they made considering the time length and what they had to do, I thought those changes were a very good choice. But also just because of everything they had to fit in this movie, it did cause some like awkward pacing issues at some point. It could just also be the type of story, just because going into it, like during the part of the Hunger Games, that's obviously going to be fast paced, whereas when the later half of the movie, when Snow is in District 12, it's going to be a slower pace, so I'm sure that's part of it too. I will say though, there were 2 character deaths in the book that I thought hit harder in the book and the movie. I was very disappointed with how rushed they were in the movie, because the book at least gave you time to mourn, and then the movie said, nah. And I really, really wish we saw more of the Covey in the movie as well, just because the Covey was a huge part of the book. I get why their time was cut short and why we had to focus on Lucy Gray. It just sucks because there's so many theories of how Katniss relates to the Covey when you read the book, and so many of those theories just get lost in this movie adaptation. And the last thing I want to say about this story, because this is a very like jumbled review, but the last thing I want to say is that I don't know how much of this story was planned out when Suzanne Collins was writing the original trilogy, but every detail is so important and relates so well to the original story that if she told me she did have it planned from the start, I would 100% believe her. If she did not have it planned from the start, she did a great job relating it to everything and making it seem like she did. Oh, and the soundtrack of this movie is great too. So yeah, I don't even know if that was like a cohesive review, but this is not one of my 3 out of 5 star movies. This is actually a 4.5 out of 5 star movie to me. The next movie I watched is another one of the Wes Anderson Roald Dahl shorts, and that is The Swan, which is about a kid who gets bullied. I'm not going to go into depth with this review because it's the same issues I had with Henry Sugar. but 3 out of 5 stars. Then 2 days before Thanksgiving, I went to the theater to see Thanksgiving. This is a slasher film, and in this, the murderer witnesses a horrendous Black Friday, so the next year he starts killing people as punishment. This was a really fun movie. I'm typically not a slasher fan. I just went to see this to use up another AMC Stubs member thing, and I was shocked by the turnout because here I am seeing it on Tuesday, day 5 of it being in the theater. When I got my ticket, the theater is nearly empty. I get to the theater and it's full, but it was a fun time. This movie is hilarious, and I'm not sure if that was the intention, but my entire theater was cackling. Literally at some point in the movie, a guy gets stabbed in the face with a parade float. His eyeballs exploded, there's brains on the screen, his nose is hanging by a thread, and people were gasping for air because they were laughing so hard. I don't know if I would be able to watch this movie by myself. I think it was just that collective theater experience that made it so fun. So if you can, I highly recommend seeing this movie with a big group of people. But one thing I found weird about this movie is that the advertising made such a big deal about Addison Rae being in it, and she's barely in this film. So if you're going to see the film for her, keep that in mind. Like, she's not the main character. She has maybe 10 minutes of screen time. But a fun time, 3 out of 5 stars. So the following day, I went back to the theater to see Disney's new movie, Wish. This movie takes place in a kingdom where the magician, who ends up being the villain, he keeps people's wishes, and our main character, whose name I think is Asha or Asta, wants to return it to everyone. And you know what? This movie's getting a lot of flack online. I thought it was cute. I thought it was a great way to celebrate 100 years of Disney. Honestly, the whole point of the movie was just to tell a really simple story, see how many Easter eggs they could fit into the movie. And knowing that going into the film, I thought they achieved what they set out to achieve. And honestly, I had a blast picking out the different types of Easter eggs. Some of them are very, very obvious, like one of the deer is just straight up called Bambi. Some of them you need to think about a little, like she has 7 friends. They each have a distinct personality, and I think I was about halfway through the film when I realized what one of them was wearing, and then I was like, oh, you're based on the 7 dwarves. Some of the Easter eggs are not so obvious. They're just an image that happened to appear for about 5 seconds. Like, for example, during one of the villain's songs, if you look really hard, you'll actually see like the apple with the green goop that was in Snow White. Thought that was pretty cool. This is not the greatest Disney film by any means. I do agree it's one of their weaker ones. I have very mixed emotions about the animation. I appreciate them branching out for styles. I just feel like when it comes to the mixture of 2D, 3D, Disney has a long ways to go. There are some scenes where it was very awkward and it looked incomplete, like it looked like the movie was still rendering, where there were some other scenes were just visually stunning. I really like watching her braids and how they would twirl, but just some things I did not like about this film. It is very fast paced. You don't really have time to breathe between scenes. Most of the dialogue is on the nose. It doesn't let viewers infer or interpret anything they want to. Like, it's very like, this is what we're trying to say and we're gonna be as explicit as possible. And the songs are kind of boring and corny. Like, I mean, like, I'm not saying they're bad. I don't think I ever hated a song in this movie, but Disney has definitely come out with better songs. Actually, you know what, I'm gonna say I was disappointed with the villain song just because I missed the 90s where we had Ursula telling people to flaunt your looks because who cares about personality. In The Lion King, we had hyenas doing the Nazi march. And what's it called? Hunchback of Notre Dame, we had someone singing about how horny they are. And yet in this one, like, the villain just has an average pop song. So that's the one song I was disappointed with. Didn't really hate it, just disappointed. The opening song was fun, and then everything else I just don't remember. So immemorable songs. I do want to comment on the social media aspect of this film though, just cause like, media literacy is in peril, y'all. But I was shocked to go on Twitter and see how many people thought this was supposed to be like a multiverse film in the end. Because yeah, the ending's kind of corny, but like, again, Easter eggs, right? Wow, cool, end credits, moving on, watching the next movie. But a bunch of people on Twitter, and I was flabbergasted how many likes these posts were getting, thought they were trying to relate them to the actual like Disney universe, like Disney was trying to create like a shared universe. And I was just so confused reading these tweets because I was like, has the term Easter eggs left a cultural zeitgeist, or is media literacy just that bad nowadays? I mean, literally, Disney had to come out and say that this is not supposed to be a shared universe. They are, in fact, Easter eggs. I'm shocked. Like, we're fucking doomed when it comes to media literacy. I'm not saying you had to like the Easter eggs, because, yeah, I agree. Some of the Easter eggs I thought were kind of corny and too on the nose. But just it's the fact shocked that people didn't know they were Easter eggs. That's what's concerning to me, because it couldn't be any more obvious to me. So yeah, I hope media literacy gets better. But yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. Thought it was cute. It achieved what it set out to achieve. Hopefully Disney does come out with better movies in the future. So then the next day was Thanksgiving, which I spent alone with my dog. Because again, I moved to the East Coast. All of my family's in the Midwest. So I spent the day watching the Thanksgiving parade and rewatching a bunch of movies. The first movie I rewatched was Sister Act. In this movie, Whoopi Goldberg plays a Las Vegas singer. She witnesses a murder, so the police put her in a convent and she has to pretend to be a nun. As someone who was raised Catholic, I think every Catholic needs to watch this movie. It is a rite of passage. My entire family loves this movie. This movie gets funnier with every rewatch. Like, the older I get, the funnier it is, because more and more jokes are clicking. Because I think the first time I watched this, I was a young child, so obviously some of these jokes went right over my head. But being the age I am now and knowing more about my religion makes these jokes even funnier. Maggie Smith is in this. She's Mother Superior. I guess she was Mother Superior for a convent before becoming a professor of magic. One of the Sanderson sisters is in this movie. The songs are really fun too. Like, I tell my parents, if Catholic Mass had songs like this, I would actually start going to church again. One of those songs is my Roman Empire too. I quote the beginning like on a daily basis.
Hail, girls.
Hail Mary, what's up? So the next movie I rewatched was Sister Act 2. In this movie, the nuns ask Whoopi Goldberg if she can come back, pretend to be a nun again, and teach music at a Catholic school. This movie isn't as funny as the first one, but I do think this one's actually more wholesome because she is helping a low-income school. The school is about to close. She really wants these kids to find their path and help them just find something they enjoy, and I really like their student-teacher relationship. And the songs in this one are really fun too, especially the last one, Joyful Joyful. And Lauryn Hill's in this. I just found out the lead student's Lauryn Hill. And then my last rewatch of the day was Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. This is when Peppermint Patty invites herself over to his house and they have dinner of popcorn, jelly beans, pretzels, and toast. I still think this movie is incredibly wholesome, and one day I'm going to make that dinner for myself. So the next movie I watched is part of my Christmas adventures, and that is Holiday Affair. This is about a woman who's raising a son on her own after losing her husband in the war. She's talking to a man she very clearly doesn't love, but she's been talking to him for 2 years for God knows why, until one day she comes across a charming man and there is a spark between the two. I reacted to this movie, so I don't really want to go too deep into my thoughts, but there are some very charming men in this movie. It stars Scream Queen Janet Leigh, and her face card never declines. She was so gorgeous. It's cute and it's unexpectedly hilarious, especially the son. The kid who plays the son is what makes this film, and I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then I watched The Rat Catcher, which is one of the Roald Dahl shorts, and this is about a guy telling everyone his plan on how to catch a rat. This one's actually my favorite of the shorts, and that's because it is actually acted out. Yes, they are narrating what they're doing, but they are actually doing the things that they are narrating. And I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. And then I watched the last of the shorts, and that is called Poison, and it is about a guy who has a snake on him, and they're trying to figure out how to take the snake off. This one is shockingly my least favorite. I gave this 2.5 out of 5 stars. I say shockingly because it is acted out, which is what I wanted, but for some reason I just wasn't engrossed in the story at all, and I found it very boring. Then I headed back to the theater and I watched Saltburn. An alternative title is Eat the Rich, the movie. The Irish Take Revenge on the English, the movie. This is about a weird little guy played by Barry Keoghan, because he's always playing weird little guys, who meets a very charming man played by Jacob Elordi, so we are seeing him again. And Jacob Elordi invites him to his mansion over the summer called Saltburn. I don't know what I was expecting going into this movie, but it wasn't what it is. I'm still trying to collect my thoughts on this movie, actually. I still just don't know how I feel about it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because typically when I don't hate a film, but I don't know if I like a film per se, I always give it 3 out of 5 stars because I feel like that's a safe rating. It's just a very strange film. The main character is not a particularly good person, which is fine as a concept, as I was discussing with the Hunger Games movie. It's just, I went into this movie not knowing that, so I think I was expecting a totally different story than what I got, which is on me. It's not on the director or anything, but I think that's still why I'm trying to collect my thoughts, because it's like, I went into this thinking it was going to be just something else. I vomited in my mouth a little bit during the bathtub scene and the bloody mouth scene, and I'm vomiting just thinking about it. See this movie if you want to see Barry Keoghan's dick though, because you get a nice proper view of it at one point. And yeah, I wish I had more to say about this movie. I wish I had a better critical review, but I I don't know what to say. 3 out of 5 stars. And the last 2 movies have to deal with my Christmas adventures. The first one being John Denver and the Muppets: A Christmas Together. I'm trying, part of these Christmas adventures, I'm trying to watch all the Muppet Christmas specials, and this was the first one. This is more of a concert movie. It doesn't really have a plot. It's just John Denver singing Christmas carols with the Muppets. It set out what it meant to do. It was wholesome. 3 out of 5 stars. And the last movie I watched is another slasher, and that is Jack Frost. In this, Jack Frost is a snowman who kills people. This is good, dumb fun in the same vein as Friday the 13th, just with terrible graphics. It's so funny watching these people. Like, they didn't even attempt to make the snowman look real like the wholesome Jack Frost movie did. Like, it's just very clearly a very shitty puppet. So it's funny watching people in all seriousness scream and be scared of something that's just so fake. And the acting in this, oh my god, it's so melodramatic, but it's the type of melodrama where everyone involved in this movie is very aware of what type of movie they're making. So don't go into this taking it so seriously, and you will probably have an enjoyable time. I did sometimes, other times are pretty rough to get through. It's mostly a background noise movie. I gave this 2.5 out of 5 stars. And that is it for this video. This was kind of rough for me to film just because I didn't realize how lackluster this month was until actually talking to you guys about it. But let me know down below if you guys have seen any of these films and what your thoughts are. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Without further ado, I'm gonna peace out and I'll see you guys later. Ciao a tutti.